welcome back. Welcome back to the Chatty Chairwoman. Thank you so much for stopping by. This is a review of Love and Marriage DC. Now, what did I say? This show is going to bring it. There are so much opportunities for in-depth storylines that will bring us the drama, the tea, the interest, the shock value, all of that into this show. Because you can tell they really picked a good cast of castmates. I started to say good cast of characters for this show. So the show opens up with Miss Ashley talking about, her and DJ Quicksilver need to spend more time together. He's always on the road, blah, 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 blah. I think we're going to get tired of that part. I think Ashley and DJ Quicksilver are good people because they're so authentic and they have good energy and they play well on screen, but they're going to have to come up with more than having availability to spend time with each other. We need the depth that we're getting from our Erana and Jamie, okay? Because man, they got so many different storylines with that couple. They could honestly, and I know I said last week, the Silvers could have their own show, but the Tylers could honestly have their own show after tonight's episode, okay? Because it was simply so interesting. So we go on and we see that Erana wants to meet up with Winter to get to know her one-on-one. So they meet up and then they talk. Winter asked her what have been their challenges in their marriage. They never had a chance to really dive in at the anniversary celebration. And Erana, I'm gonna tell you something, guys. I'm gonna butcher her name all the time, right? I don't know why they didn't name her Erica. Erana. Is her name Erana? Okay, forgive me. Just name her Erica. That way everybody will remember and don't have to figure out how to pronounce it. Ay. So she asked her what was the challenge in your marriage, and she admitted, Erana, that she has been, going into guys' DMs and flirting with men, and she has done that because she has been so lonely. She said that Jamie, when he was into that club scene, remember now his plan is to go back into the club scene. He was out all the time. Even though she never saw it, she suspected him of cheating. She would ask him where he was, and he said he fell asleep at a stop sign. Lord, I have never heard that line. Now, I've heard some stuff. Now, if you're the wife that falls for that line, then you missing a few marbles, right? Because that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. He fell asleep at the stop sign. Maybe they live in a gated community and he stopped and fell asleep. I have no idea. And then she also said he told her one time he left his keys. He had to go back to the club. All of these excuses for why he stayed out so late at night. And that was when he was in the club scene. So that was a little honesty that I didn't think we were going to get from them, because they kind of come off as very guarded. And rightfully so. That's probably how they've been together 30 years. And even on the episode, Jamie says that Erana talks too much and tells too much of their business. And that was when, after the scene with Winter, Erana and her husband, along with Ashley and DJ Silver, get together, have a couples night, and they talk about relationships, and they talk about how they were more intimate when they were younger, and now Jamie said he's still interested in being intimate all the time, but she's not ready. She said she needs more foreplay, blah, 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 blah. Y'all know how that goes. And so she said that during her lunch with Winter suggested they go see a sex therapist. So I guess that's a coming up scene or something. And Jamie said he doesn't need a sex therapist, and that he doesn't like her telling all of their personal business. And that's why they've been together so long, because his thing is keep your business in your house. And I'm a true believer of that. If you are a couple, I don't care how close you are to other people, keep your business in your house. Or if you're a couple, have one couple that you guys turn to that can mentor you, an older couple that you turn to for advice. Outside of that, child, keep your business in your house and work it out. Because if you share your challenges and your cheating and your all the other stuff that goes on in a marriage with somebody, and when you get over that hump, everybody's going to still be looking at your side eye. Why? Because they're going to remember what really happened. So it's best to keep it in-house. So they go on, and I just want to really get to the dinner at the end, which I thought was the most interesting and profound part of the whole show. So they go on, they do that, and there is a scene with so I want to get to the part where the dinner with Jamie and all of his family, because I thought that was the most profound part of the whole show. So they go on and they have Erana and Jason is the disabled son, talk, and they talk about what he plans to do for the future. And she says, as his mom, so he was born without his sight, he was born blind, and she has had to care for him. And she said it's very hard, and she was almost in tears. It's very hard to care for a disabled child, especially if they're blind. And she talked about his struggles and how he loved music when he was younger, but now that he's older, he's not really interested in being involved in the music scene. And she talked to him about how she has updated the application for the DOORS program. And this is a program that helps people with disabilities with developing independent skills. So I'm gathering from this, Jason wants to eventually live on his own. I didn't realize he was so young. They said he's 21 years old. But the thing is, his dad wants him to become a DJ. And his mom said, what do you want to do? She asked him. He said he wants to work for Apple. So they have this little stage scene where the grandmother comes in and gives him her watch, and she wants it synced to her phone. That was totally staged to kind of lead into him talking to his mom about he wants to work for Apple, right? So the mom said they have to talk to the dad and tell the dad what he really wants to do, that he doesn't want to be a DJ, and he wants to work on computers. So they're going back and forth on who's going to tell him. So Jason said, no, you tell him, because if you tell him, he'll take it better. So she, in order to talk to her husband and him to talk to his dad about what he really wants to do with his life at 21, she has to plan a whole entire dinner and bring the whole family together as buffers, is my thought. So they get together, they have this dinner. Jamie talks to Jason about, it's every parent's desire to see their child achieve all of these great things, and he wants to see him in magazines, and he wants to be able to point and say, that's my child. He says that's what he wants for his sons and as well as his daughter. So we also find out in this scene that the daughter is not Jamie's daughter. That is actually the daughter of Erana's high school sweetheart. So the daughter is 33. So she had her with her high school sweetheart. And when she got together with Jamie, he raised her as his own. That was a new piece of nugget that I didn't know. And the daughter's name is Brittany. So Brittany goes on to say at this dinner, she wished she had followed her heart. But her whole life, and this is at 33, she has followed what they have said. Done the things that they wanted her to do, pursued the career that they wanted her to pursue. And she wished that she would have said something when she was younger, and that he should be able to do what he wants to do. So that was pretty profound. And we know as parents, we try to direct our kids based on what we see their talents are and based on what we know in terms of our own experiences and where the world is. But when it comes down to it, we really have to give them the freedom to select what they want to do, because we all know it. We've all worked on jobs, we hate it. We've all been in classes, we hate it. We've all been in situations that we've hated, that we're not fulfilling. And that's the worst thing you can do, to lay in bed at 7 o'clock and keep hitting the alarm because you just don't want to get up to go to that place. So it's important that we allow our children to have that freedom. And I know this because, we were raised what? We were raised, you are to be seen and not heard. they allowed their children to have more of a voice, and two, they allowed their children more often than not to pursue whatever their dream was and supported them. And that's kind of opened up my mind when I was raising my children. Hey, if you want to travel, if you want to do this, you do all of that while you're young. So by the time you're older, you'll be complete and understand exactly who you are and what you want to do. Does not mean run the streets. It means a dedicated, organized, structured, whatever it is you're going to do. But you are going to finish school and you are going to work. So in that regard, I totally get it. We have to get away from you to be seen and not heard. Do as I say, to what is it you want to do? Let me support you. And it has to make sense. So, and I know for Jamie, his main thing is getting his son, like he said, out of the room. And I think DJing, he suggested DJing to Jason because it is, I'm going to use this term, low-hanging fruit. Meaning if DJ Silver is offering a class, it may be a month's class, and he can get right out there and start working and start getting out of the house and start socializing, where computer class may take 6 months to a year. So he's probably trying to get his son out of the house into a more productive experience. So there are two sides to everything, and maybe he can start off with DJing as he's going to school. Doesn't mean he can't do it, but maybe he needs to help him find a job or something like that. So that's probably where the solution lies in that regard. I thought it was a very impactful segment, and I said, man, I'm glad to see the Tylers are finally open up, because you know they have a story to tell. They wouldn't be on the show if they didn't. And to see the young Jason do his confessional, I just love the direction the show is going in. And I love the fact that we're getting to see a young man who's disabled, trying to live his life, trying to find his foot in the world. And he has such supportive parents. So that is a really good segment. That's a feel-good thing that we all are glad that they are willing to open up their world to us and share it with us. So that was a good part of the nugget. So we see that coming up in the next episode, it's going to be fire. And we are only on episode 5? So I knew this show was going to bring it because of the cast of characters. And then, now I keep telling y'all, something is off for Monique and Chris. I don't think she appreciates because he doesn't work. He worked early on in his life. He worked so well because she said he's never had a job. I think on last episode she said, or this one, he's never had a job. But playing football is a job. It's getting up in the morning. It's eating right. It's working out. It's going to bed. It's showing up for practice. It's practice again. It's going to a game. It's getting hit. It's hitting someone. It's your body aching. It's the mental impact. That is a job. And he was successful, so successful at it, right? That he was able to help you guys maintain a lifestyle years after he's retired. Why is she so annoyed with this man? And maybe he needs to find a hobby, or maybe he needs to become a coach to get him out of the house. Because if he's just sitting around in the house, just there, doing this, lackadaisical, nowhere to go, then that could be kind of discouraging, right? Because you want to look up to your man as someone who's thriving. So if she doesn't see him as thriving anymore, then that's not attractive. Totally get it. But she has to change her tone. Did you see they had one interaction? Now, first let me back up. They showed the wonderful pictures from Tanzania, beautiful pictures, and see what a blessing it is to be able to take your whole family after a pandemic to such an amazing trip, right? So they start talking, and she's still talking about he's still surface, he's not deep. Well, most men are not deep. Most men are not, Chris has probably always been like that. That's his personality. But don't make it a task. If you make it a task, they're never going to do it. They're going to always resist it. Just have a conversation. Just sit with him and slowly bring it out. Don't make it a task. Don't make it, if the lady said write it, if the therapist said for him to write it down and she wrote hers down and he won't write it down, then kind of talk to him about and pull it out of him one at a time, but not as if he is a child, right? So when they were doing their thing about, she wanted him to be more in depth in conversation, and he was like, yeah, he's trying, he's working on it. And then she got frustrated, and then he asked, so is your mom coming? And she didn't even respond to him on camera. Oh my God. She didn't even respond to him on camera. I'm gonna tell you what's going on. She's getting her voice, right? She's leading a reality show. Her company, Mila Essentials, is doing well. She has her podcast, and now she is a co-host for a radio show in DC. She's getting her voice. So as she starts to rise and gains her footing, his value to her is what? Decreasing. That's not good. Because remember now, when she said she dropped out of college, Monique dropped out of college because she wanted to be an artist, a singer. She said she was sleeping in her car. She wanted to be a singer, right? And then she met Chris. So she always wanted to be a celebrity, a star, right? So she's finally back on the avenue where she can be a star. And for him, he might be boring for her. And that's not a good sign. So even though he has wealth, she wants to see him grow. When a man is not working, but when he's fully engaged in his own life, it makes him more attractive. Sure, he can have all this money, he can have friends over, but he should be like, okay, I'm going to coach football. Oh, I'm going to apply to be on the Redskins assistant football coach. Or she needs to see him thriving and not just sitting around the house. Therein lies the problem. She doesn't see any growth in him. She feels like he's the same person she met whenever they met. And if she's growing and thriving, then he's not attractive. It's kind of like being on a job. If you start a job and you go to school, and while you're in that job, you're learning at school, you get your degree, you're still in that job, and you're like, ooh, this job is not fulfilling me anymore. The people here just have the same conversation they've had 10 years ago. And that's kind of how she probably sees Chris. Nice guy, good guy. I think she needs to reconfigure her perspective of him and their relationship so she doesn't destroy it. Anyway, that's all I have to say. This has been the Chatty Chairwoman. I know we're off on a tangent, but it breaks my heart to watch them shut down production, because that really is a bad sign. They shut down production like you're watching Married at First Sight or one of those dating shows. This is a couple that's been together for 10 plus years, and they're shutting down production because they cannot communicate. Wow. They shouldn't have came back to reality TV. Not yet. They should have gotten through this spell. What do they call this? This is the 7-year itch. So she said they're getting theirs at 10. They should have got through this itch before they came back to reality TV.